Hi, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode. Well, not an actual episode. Welcome to the intro episode of Unveiled Voices podcast. I'm Anifah, and I'm super, super excited to start this journey with all of you.
Yay. Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Mariam. Yeah, like Anifah said, we're happy to have you start this wonderful journey with us. And very soon we'll share shortly why we're embarking on this journey and basically what this podcast will be about. So Anifah, do you want to just go into that,
Yeah,
or we
sure.
first do the round of tell me about yourself? Who are
Yeah, I
you?
think I think yeah, before we get into like the details, I think like you said, it makes sense to share a bit about ourselves.
Mhm.
I can start like a brief overview of myself. I'm Anifah. I'm a Muslim woman, obviously. I'm a software engineer. Outside of work, one of the things I'm very tuned into is actually connecting with other people. People that I have stuff in common with, people that I don't have stuff in common with. People are super important, and part of why we're here is not just to do all of this good stuff, achieve stuff. It's also like achieve things as a collective. So that's something I'm very keen on. One thing I also will say about myself, I've always been like someone who loves to read. I think stories are very important, right? Stories are a very big part of our lives. There's so much power in sharing our stories. I would say that's just like a brief overview of myself, who I am, and maybe some sneak peek into the reasoning why we're here and trying to put together this podcast.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, my name is Mariam. I work in finance. I'm a finance analyst for one of the big tech companies based in London. Yeah, so about myself outside of work, just as you rightly mentioned, I'm also kind of interested and passionate about learning from other people's journeys, like having communal support, having that huge community. Like you also said, there's kind of like a lot of conversations that need to be had. There's a lot of representation that needs to be had, particularly in this time and climb. Being a Muslim woman is the part of how for Muslim women, how are we navigating the workforce? How are we navigating community, sisterhood? I'm facing something does not necessarily mean I'm the only one facing it. There are other people that are facing it, and all of these conversations need to be had. And it would also be helpful to kind of like be a platform for people who will not necessarily have that community to have something to kind of like listen to, kind of like see experiences that they could relate to, see how people are navigating the different facets of lives, and also kind of like draw experiences and things they can take from this. So again, that's like giving a sneak to what we eventually want this podcast to unravel into.
Yeah, exactly. So, like you said, Unveiled Voices will sort of be a lot about representation, sisterhood, community, and the idea is to create this space where we can share our experiences, highlight really amazing stories, and foster this sense of belonging. So, to kind of deep dive into again our motivations for starting this podcast a little bit more, right? I don't know about you, Mariam, but for me as a Muslim woman in tech, an African Muslim woman, in fact,
Yeah,
Nigeria,
double
right?
sword minority.
I feel like, again, being an immigrant, someone who lives in the UK, I've been living in the UK over the last 5 years, right? I feel like I've had moments in my life where I felt a bit unseen or unheard. And that's partly what has inspired this podcast. So for me, growing up as an African woman in tech, there were times where I feel like I didn't quite fit in. But one of the things that's helped me is actually finding this community of other people similar to me in different ways. Even hearing their own stories of, how they started their technical journey, how they face similar challenges, how they kind of like push through and are all kind of doing what they're doing now. Very
Yeah.
fine, by the way, has also helped me push through. So I feel like having this moment is one of the things that spurred myself to have this conversation with Mariam and say, like, you know what, we think it might be beneficial to actually share this on a much more like available skill. So Mariam, do you maybe have something?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. So mine would even go as far back as 16-year-old me. Like I have mentioned before, there is that huge need for representation. So growing up, I didn't quite see a lot of Black Muslim women kind of like in spaces where I wanted to be. Yes, I wanted to like be at the very best and top of my career, but I didn't grow up seeing a lot of Muslim women being that. Like I was even discouraged in some fronts of, oh, you shouldn't do this because you're a Muslim woman, you shouldn't probably go this route because you're a Muslim woman. And it kind of like sparked a lot of questions and curiosity in me that why should I not? Why should I not? Like, why are Muslim women not in these spaces? Like, what are the blockers? What are the things they are not doing? All of that. So if 16-year-old me had this sort of platform, most of the conversations and the deep dive or like the things I had to like figure out for myself would have been a much easier thing. And alhamdulillah, it's good to see like a lot of Muslim women kind of like being at the front of their career now, but it would also be helpful if we can kind of like give back to the community, sharing what we've learned, how we've navigated all those years in trying to like build our career for ourselves with younger ones. So a 16-year-old Miriam somewhere would not go through the route of figuring out things for herself all over again. So yeah, and it's also the bit of where so we have like this kind of community in London as well, Anifah and myself and some other couple of friends. And most times when we meet, like we always have 1001 conversations to to have. Like there are a lot of like things to dice and slice as a Muslim woman, also living abroad and all of that. So yeah, I think it's kind of like good to just bring everything together into a platform and have all of these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we both have like unique experiences, like as immigrants. You have lived somewhere else before
Yeah.
moving here to the UK,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Where was that? Somewhere in the Middle East.
Dubai. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
I
So
did,
I
yeah.
assume there's some sort of different dynamics in like going from Nigeria to Dubai and then Dubai to the UK.
Exactly.
Anyway, for me, I moved to the UK right after completing something called national service in Nigeria. I think the Nigerians here will know. But basically, that's like 1 year after uni where you're sort of like working for the government, but you're still like attached to a company that will be aligned to what you studied in school.
Mhm.
It's kind of this way to, I guess, ease people into the working force, if that makes sense. So coming from that to, moving to the UK, living alone. At the time, I wasn't even living in London. I was living in a smaller town in the northwest of England, where, as you can imagine, it's not super diverse. So it's kind of like I needed to adapt to a whole new culture. That's one. Growing up, starting like adulthood, and then starting to build my career, right? In that sense. So
Mhm.
again, like navigating this whole new system, finding your place in a new society, and still staying connected to like your roots.
Yeah,
But I think the thing that I would say, and probably you would echo as well, is that moving here, everything we've done so far, we have to acknowledge the privilege in being able to do that, right?
definitely,
It's
definitely.
provided us with like huge, incredible opportunities and a completely different way of viewing life. And this is kind of what leads to this podcast where we'll be exploring a lot of things around um personal growth, overcoming challenges, even celebrating your history, your cultural heritage, and supporting each other in both the professional journey, spiritual journeys. And the idea is that every episode will kind of bring something new to the table. Could be a deep dive into a particular issue, or us just sharing our thoughts and experiences, right?
Yeah, so I mean, you pretty much already kind of like summed up the themes that we'll be kind of like looking at and exploring on this podcast. So, like you said, yeah, you had experiences moving from Nigeria to the UK, going straight into the workforce in the UK. I had experience of going from Nigeria to Dubai, then from Dubai to the UK. But even in Nigeria as well, like I had work experience where I was working in a multinational company, but still there's the bit of the Nigerian bits. I've had also cases of when I was sort of applying for internships, I shied away from some certain companies because at the time they were not super supportive of Muslim women or women in hijab working there, so kind of like shying away from those and all of that. There's also the bit of how navigating praying times during work, like do companies provide you prayer runs and all of that? So yeah, I mean, there are definitely a lot of conversations and experiences or kind of like stories for this that we'll definitely be sharing on this podcast. So apart from also the navigating life or workforce and all of that, as a Muslim woman, there's also the where we'll be sharing how community has sort of helped, like having a community of women. Yeah, so we definitely have a lot to unpack on this podcast. So I think I can just go straight into, we already gave snippet of what to expect, so we just want to kind of like share also the structure of what the podcast would be. So for now, we don't know what will happen in the future. The structure of the podcast will be me and Anifah. Maybe sometime in the future we can also explore kind of like bringing guests, speakers on the podcast. But we definitely have platforms where we would have feedback from our listeners or things or stories that our listeners would want to share with us. And in terms of frequency of releases, Anifah, do you want to speak to that as well?
Oh yeah, sure. What we plan to do is to release an episode on Thursdays at midday every week, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Like you already said, it would be very informal in the sense that we'll be talking about personal stories, potentially interviewing other people and touch on some of these various things we've talked about. The idea is that we want you to feel like you're basically sitting down with your friends or even older sister or younger sisters, if you want to think of it that way, and sharing and learning together, right? So 1 week we might be talking about like challenges of navigating a career. For example, in my case, a career in a male-dominated field. You know, another week we might be talking about like
what is happening on Twitter streets.
What is happening? Oh my god, that would be super controversial. I feel like I'm trying to like not get into trouble with Twitter stuff, but yeah, if we feel like it's relevant to some of the stuff we discussed here, we'll definitely be open to like bringing some things from Twitter, from other social media, touching on them here. Again, just to wrap it up, like we're big on representation, we're big on sisterhood. Like it's crucial for people to see themselves in the stories that we tell. So we are hoping that by sharing some of our stories, we're actually helping to create a more inclusive and supportive community for someone somewhere in the world, right? And again, as I said, sisterhood, we're big on it. We're here to support you. We're here to celebrate successes as well and lift each other up during tough times. So, as Mariam said, we want to hear from you. Your stories, your feedback, your support. It's very crucial. We'll let you know as we go on during the season. We'll let you know how we want you to share stories with us, ask questions or suggest topics for future episodes. So, to wrap this up, enjoy what you're hearing. If you enjoy anything or you resonate with anything we've said so far,
and if you think we should already did it from episode 1, just tell us.
Yes, I like that because people are like focused on like feedback. But if absolutely your gut feeling is like, we don't need more of this podcast. You know, sometimes I see stuff on Twitter where people are like, not another podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
If that's what you feel like, feel free to share with us and let us know. And you know, if that's overwhelmingly what's coming through, maybe truly this podcast is not there. I believe the opposite will be the case. So please subscribe to us, share with your friends, leave us a review. Your support means the world to us. And you know, if you think of someone that might even benefit from these conversations, right?
Share with them.
And please don't forget to follow us on social media.
Yeah, so we'll be everywhere on social media. We'll drop our handle in the description box or wherever Spotify. Whatever they allow us to put it. Yeah, so we'll put that. It was nice. It's nice to kind of like start this. Inshallah, we also pray that this would be beneficial in the way we have thought about it.
Thank you so much for tuning into our introductory episode where, as you know, Mariam said, I'm echoing that we're really looking forward to this journey with you all. And until next time, please remember to stay connected, support one another, and Take care, everyone.
Yeah, bye. Share, listen, come back.